Hi everybody, I'm Tony E at Show IP Interface Brief, and I'm trying something new today. Instead of working on labs and pre-recording a vlog and then editing it and saving it and uploading it and sharing it, I'm trying to do just a live stream. And so this may get a little boring at times, but I want to try something new because I want to try and maximize my time over the remaining 85 days left in my study plan. And producing the content has taken up a lot of time. If any of you have been following, you'll know that I haven't really been updating the blog in well over a week. And I probably won't get to that. If I do find myself with some free time, I'll try to put in as much info as I can, but I just don't have time for that. Getting the hands-on lab experience is the most important thing right now, and so updating the blog has fallen by the wayside. I do try to continually vlog every day that I'm studying, to try and be honest with myself, to try and be honest with the community, and to hope that my persistence and drive can become infectious and to help some of you continue to do great things, become great engineers, and chase whatever certs you want to chase. So tonight I'm going to work on PPPoE. I'm going to just configure it again. I did it last night. I'm going to do it probably once or twice today, and then I'll do a DMVPN, and then I'll do OSPF. Authentication, and then I think I want to get into OSPF v3 in a simple topology. That's something I found myself sort of using the question mark for a little way too much, or a little too often, and that's not good. I should know the commands ahead of time. I should know exactly what I need to type ahead of time. I don't need to be question marking my way through the exam. That's why we do these labs. We do the labs so we can do our practice, so we can do our training. This is practice. This is training. So here on my desktop, I have a EVNG lab that I built, which is similar to a DMVPN architecture. I have R1 on the left and R2, R3, and R4 on the right. And behind here I have R5 and R6. I was just playing around with trying to use a serial interface. Here, I'll try to drag that down. It's behind the camera. I was playing around with trying to use a serial interface in EVNG, and I was unsuccessful. These are IOL images. I don't know if anyone has been successful using serial interfaces in EVNG. If you are, please let me know, because I'd love to be able to get that working, just to have another avenue to practice. So with that said, I'm just going to be using this topology and the gigabit Ethernet interfaces that are there. And while I'm doing some configs, I'm probably going to turn on some background music to try and break the monotony of me just typing and talking to myself. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make R1 my server and R2, 3, and 4 the clients. I'm going to try and do all this from memory as best I can. PPPoE, my broadband access, and this needs to be virtual template 1 and exit. Let's do interface virtual template 1. I'm going to give it IP address, the .1. I also need to make it so it will serve out some IP addresses to the clients as they as they register in. So that's going to be here. Default address, no. All right, I got to use the question mark. IP address and call it a pool. And I call this my pool. So now I'm going to exit. I'm going to do IP local pool my pool and the first and last IP. So I'm going to do 10 and up to 15. Now on my gigabit interface, I want to say PPPoE enable group, and that should be my BBA. And so to validate, we do show IP interface brief. We have our gigabit interface is up. Virtual template has our IP address. Virtual access, which is copied from virtual template, is up. Now I'm wondering, should I see an IP address there or not? It's still a little foreign to me. Okay, over on router 2, which is going to be a client, I need to make a dialer interface, and I need to associate that with a physical interface. So let's go conft interface dialer 1, dialer pool 1, IP address negotiate. I'm going to do encapsulation, PPP. Is there something I'm forgetting? Let me go to the physical and associate this, which is going to be PPPoE client dial pool number 1. See what we get. Virtual access is up. Show IP interface brief. I got an IP address. Very cool. Okay, let's see if we can ping that server. We can. Excellent. Okay. That seemed to work pretty well. Where's 3? All right, we're going to go through the same procedure on 3. I'm trying to learn a little bit about streaming. This is kind of an experiment getting ready for this Saturday, where I'm going to try and do another full lab. It'll probably be 6 hours of labbing on Saturday, so I'm trying to get the hang of it and trying to make everything as efficient as I can, so when Saturday comes I can just hit the ground running. So let's do interface dialer 1, and we're going to call this dialer pool 1, IP address negotiated, encapsulation PPP, and I think that's it. Let's go to gigabit. Now all we have to do is tell it it's a client, and to reference dial pool 1. Excellent. It's coming up. 11. Cool. All right, after I do number 4, I have a question for anyone watching or anyone watches this in the future. Okay, that's up. Show IP interface brief. And that's 12. Excellent. Okay, so I have reachability between R2 and R1, R3 and R1, and R4 and R1. However, I've done this a number of times. I've used this topology because it enables me to either work on a technology or jump over to DMVPN, because I just want to become very efficient at the technologies that I've already used. So, but what I can't do is I can't have I currently don't have reachability, and I know I don't, between 2 and 3, and 2 and 4, and 4 and 3, and 4 and 2, and back and forth. So, if we open up 3 and 4, put 4 over here on the left. Show IP interface brief. Show IP interface brief. They're only one IP off from each other, and they're on a multi-access segment. However, if I'm on 3 and I want to try to ping 12, which is router number 4, I can't. And I'm not sure why that is. I assume it's because router 3 and router 1 have formed a point-to-point connection, even though it's over a multi-access segment. And it doesn't have any way to sort of ARP to find out what is the can it reach router 4, which is, even though it's sharing a multi-access segment. So I've tried to look at the PCAPs, and I guess I just don't understand 100% the theory behind it. Let me turn the music off. The CCIE routing and switching version 5 official cert guide has a very, very thin PPPoE section. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces of pages, so not even 5 full leaves. So it's pretty thin, and it doesn't go over much theory. It just kind of gives you the absolute minimum, bare bones, what you need to configure. And I've kind of been using this along with some research from various blog sites for formulating my plan moving forward. It's been helpful. So that's about it. So what I wanted to do was actually wanted to put this up to the test, right? So I'm going to take these 4 routers. I'm actually going to, it's going to take about a minute. I'm going to stop them all. I'm going to start them again, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the requirements from the lab I did last Saturday for the PPPoE section that I had to skip because I didn't know how to configure it last Saturday. And I want to see if today, if I'll understand how to configure it. Now, I'm not going to use the topology from last week's lab. Instead, I'm just going to use the current topology, the one I just built, and see if I can just sort of fake it over top a couple of these routers. And if I review these requirements, configure a PPPoE connection between 2 routers, okay, 2 specific routers, establish PPPoE session over a particular interface, okay, configure one of the routers as a server or the other as a client, okay, we can do that. Remove the IPv4 address from the logical interface and apply it to the PPPoE interfaces. That's something I didn't just do because I didn't previously have an IP address configured. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put interface IP addresses on the 4 connecting interfaces, and I'll be able to complete that step here. Leave the IPv6 address configured on the logical interface. I'm not going to touch IPv6 here because it's not even a configurable element here. It just wants to leave it alone. And the next step is to incorporate Chap Chap authentication between the PPPoE session. Routers should use their host name and a password of a specific password to authenticate each other. Okay, I can do that too. So let's jump in. I'm going to treat R1 as the server, and I'm going to treat R2 as the client. let's try to walk through these requirements real quick. I guess we're still booting. That's fine. Shouldn't be long. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to configure an IP address on the interface. Which is going to be, I always do 10 addresses. Let's do something else. I get too comfortable with that. Let's do 172.17.127.34 and .48. Okay. Let's do the same thing over here. On the physical interface, let's do IP address 172.171.27, and let's do, let's see, that's 34. Let's do 33. And what was I doing? 48. And let's try to ping across. I'm going to turn the music back on while I'm configuring. Excellent. Okay. So now let's go through this. Configure a PPPoE section, a connection between two routers. Got it. Over a particular interface. Got it. Configure one is the server, one is the client. Okay. And apply it to the interface. Leave the IPv6 interface. Okay. So first thing we want to do is to get into global config. Let's set our broadband access group, PPPoE, and call it my BBA, something I've just become accustomed to. We're going to call this virtual template 1 and exit. And so now let's do interface gig 00, do show run interface gig 00. I'm going to grab the interface. I'm going to say no, paste. Then I want to get into the virtual template. I want to give it the IP address we just did. Okay, now we need to give out some IP addresses. We want to give out his IP address. Okay. I was just trying to think about that. How am I going to do that? Let's do peer default IP address and a pool. My pool. Let's do IP local pool, my pool. Let me give it the first IP and let me give it the same as the last, see if it takes that. So it should only have one IP address to give out. Now let's configure the physical interface to say PPPoE enable group my BBA. So the physical interface is referencing the broadband access group, which is referencing the virtual template 1, which is where we put our configs. Now, actually, when we do this, virtual template 1 isn't actually our interface. Virtual access 1 is actually our interface. So if I've done this right, which I haven't seen the console messages, so I might have screwed something up. So there's our virtual access interface. And so let's see if we can configure this guy. Show run interface gig, just so I can grab that IP address. go no for that. Okay, I took the IP address off the interface, and I'm not actually, I don't need to copy it to the clipboard. I'm not going to use it. Let's do interface dialer 1. We're going to do dialer pool 1. IP address negotiate. And encapsulation PPP. I'm going to exit that. I'm going to go under the physical and say PPPoE client dial pool 1. So here under the physical interface, we're referencing a dial pool, and in the logical interface, the dialer 1, we identify that as dialer pool 1. And that's how these elements are chained together. That was something that was very confusing to me. Yeah, it was something that was very confusing to me when I was doing the lab last week or last Saturday. I just didn't understand the configs, and even though I tried to look up a reference real quick, I just didn't understand how all the sections related to each other, and I knew it was a nested configuration, but I didn't understand what nests under what. And that's why we hammer out these labs. That's why we do them. That's why we do the configs over and over and over. And I wish there was a better reference for the theory behind all of this. If somebody has a better reference, please send it to me. You can find me on Twitter, which is on the screen, or you can find me in the Discord server, which is the invite below, which is good for 24 hours. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate something because I'm going to demonstrate something that I screwed up on when I was sort of playing around with this before, which is trying to run a routing protocol over this and the assumptions I made that were wrong. So if I do show IP interface brief, the physical interface is referencing a broadband access group, which is referencing the virtual template. But when we activate it, we actually get, or when a client registers, we actually get this virtual access 1.1. And this is actually our new logical interface that we're using. The virtual template is not actually the interface. It is actually a template. And so when we configure more than one client, this template keeps getting copied into these additional interfaces, and it'll be 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.3 and 1.4. So I thought I could get into virtual access 1.1, and it says please use virtual template to configure your virtual access. So all I was trying to do the other day was introduce a routing protocol. So let's do virtual template 1, and let's do IP OSPF 1 area 0. So now if I do like show IP OSPF interface brief, it's actually giving me the virtual access 1.1 interface as my interface is participating in OSPF, not the virtual template, which I just configured. So that's just another way to prove and to help instill the fact that the virtual template is not actually your interface. It is actually just a template. And that the configuration from virtual template just gets applied to those new logical interfaces as they're created. And those are the actual, I would say, forwarding interfaces, at least from the perspective of the router. So for show IP interface brief, so for here on the client side, again, we have a virtual access. Now I wonder, virtual access 1, and I can't use the virtual access as on the client side either. It tells me to use the virtual template. Now because this is a client, I'm not actually using a virtual template. I guess I am using a virtual template, but I'm using a dialer interface. So let's get into the dialer interface, and let's turn on OSPF 1 area 0. And for this, I'm going to do show IP OSPF interface brief to show See here, it actually references the dialer interface as the interface participating in OSPF. So that's a little different than the way the server looks at it. So I'm actually wondering why I see we're sending and receiving OSPF packets. Where's my book? I think I might know what's going on here, and I'm just looking for something. Oh, here we go. Database description packets. Let me see. These are all hellos. I wonder why hellos. No authentication. They share an area. They have router IDs. Let's see what the status is. Show IP OSPF. Oh, here we go. From X-start to down. Too many retransmissions. All right, I'm actually going to take a peek at Wireshark. Where are you, Wireshark? Here you go. Move myself to the other side. Remind me later. All right, all I want to see is OSPF. No, who is this? That was 34. Let me see 33. Ah, okay. I think this is the problem. Let me, if I stop right here. If I just grab 2 packets. So what I'm looking at here is the very first packet that I have highlighted is from router 1 to the all OSPF routers multicast address. And this is a type 2 packet database description. And what I'm looking at here, sorry, I'm getting distracted, is the MTU, the interface MTU. Now, if I go down to the next one, the interface MTU is 1500. And that is sourced from 33. So let's figure out which one is our source 33. Okay, so I'm wondering, where can I set that? It must be on the, right? Because I can't configure anything in the virtual access interface. Let's do interface dialer 1. Let's do IP MTU 1492. Double check Wireshark to be sure. 1492. All right, let's put this in, see what happens. Turn some music on while I wait. Boom, shakalaka. That's what I'm talking about. All right. MTU. I don't know what made me think of that. You know what kind of made me think of that was I remember seeing in some of the configuration templates and examples online that PPPoE adds 8 bytes to the packet, and that most Ethernet is configured 1500 by default. So PPPoE can actually exceed the MTU, and so you should set the MTU of the interface lower so your packets will fit on the media. And I didn't configure that because on router 1 it was done already. I can't figure out why that is. Show interface gigabit 00. It's 1500. Show interface virtual access 1.1 is 1492. Show interface virtual template 1. It's 1500 there. The damn template is 1500. But it must automatically calculate that because I didn't set it on R1. In fact, I only set it here on R2. Show run interface dialer 1. How about show interface virtual? And that's 1500. So strange that the virtual access interfaces are 1500, but the templates, I guess I guess I'm getting confused. On the right side is the virtual template, that's 1500. Here, virtual access 1500. I don't know how it determines that. All right. Next, configure Chap. Hostname and password. Interface virtual template 1. PPP authentication. Routers should use their hostname and password to authenticate each other. Two-way Chap. PPP authentication. Chap. Username R2, password password. Okay, I'm gonna get back into the PPP Chap password. Wait, it says change state to up. Adjacency loading to full. Okay. Well, I think that satisfies the requirements for the PPPoE section. That's it. So I tell you what, actually, I want to take another look at the packet capture. I want to see if how the host name is sent. Hello packets. I want to force it to renegotiate so I can see the authentication. Okay, OSPF is going by. Let me hit stop. Here's our chap. And I wonder, I've never seen these, this handshake. Cool. All right, I think what I can do is get one more router in there, configure PAP on the other router. Can I do that? They're both going to be using the same virtual template. Can I have two types of authentication? Let me try it. Config to do show run interface. Virtual template 1. I think we can. If we list them sequentially like that, right? Let's see what that does. Wow, okay, I hadn't thought of this. All right, now we got to change the pool. Show run include. Because our pool only has one IP address. And 48 is 16. Let's extend this and go to 38. I don't want to overlap my pool. Oh, okay. Uh, 32 is 48, 48, 47, 46. Let's call it interface. Overlaps with 40, virtual template 1. I don't know, where's the 40? Okay, looks like the pool is not configured. IP local pool. IP local pool, my pool. Had to make some room in the pool to accept another router, which meant I had to shift some things around. So let's see. All right, he doesn't have an IP address. Oh. Okay, change state to up. Let's see if he gets an IP. All right, sweet. All right, so I'm gonna go to the next router. Which is router 3. And see if I can configure this one with PAP. That's still using R1 as the server. So this needs everything from the ground up. PPPoE client dial 1 username R1 now I think the username actually doesn't matter with PAP, only the password does. Let's see what it says. Change state to down. It says up and down. Let me see if I have to put an entry. It said down. I'm going to take a look at these packets in a moment. It says down again. request. That's sourced from R3. Go to R1. And R1 is saying Chap. R3 is saying Pap. R1 is saying Chap. Wait a second. Seems like they're not negotiating the same authentication. Just to see what happens. Hostname R2 and password. So what I think this will do is I think router 3 will tell R1, hey, I'm R2. Here's my credentials to prove it. You know what? I think I've screwed that up. Looking at the config now, I don't think I needed that PPP authentication PAP. I think I needed only a few PAP statements in there. Let me try and clear them out. So let me do PPP PAP. Sent username. I'm going to send the username. What is it? R3? Password. Alright, so now let's take a look at that interface. I still have PAP authentication on there. Link down. All right. All right, here's the beginning. It's the discovery, packets, initialization, offer, request, session starting. PAP challenge coming from router 1 to router 3. Router 3's response. Did I actually configure it for Chap without thinking? No, I used PAP. Cool. All right. Well, this says Chap, and I don't expect it to say Chap. I expect it to say PAP. So let's go over router 1. Let's take off the Chap statement. Which is going to break our connection to R2. I'm okay with that. All right. Here we are. PAP only. Let's see what happens here. Go to router 3. Shut down the dialer interface. Okay, let's bring it up. I want to catch the packets. All right, that's our initiator. Here we go, here we go. There's our PAP. Oh, authentication failed. Look at that. Peer ID is R3 and password is password. And that's going from 3 to 1. Let's see what you got, 1. That sucker's in there. I think I'm trying to think. Aren't there some rules about PAP? Oh man. I bet there's some CCNA guys out there right now that are just yelling at the screen to tell me what to configure. And I can't for the life of me remember. Am I supposed to send it its own host name? Three to 1. And then 1 replies back. I'm looking at the Wireshark capture. The authentication failed. Okay, PPP, PAP, host name. You've chosen a username and password combination that is valid for chat. I'm looking it up in the book. I don't see it in the index. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at an example, and it says, throw that guy in there. And then do show run interface. Did it just come up just like that? I remember a long time ago learning about PAP and Chap, and I have never once used them. Never once. But I got a great article here that just laid out the configs for me from Cisco's website. I'll put that in the description. Oh, I got some 802 Top Hat. PAP sent username R3 password. Got it correct. Try to do a question mark after password. Didn't hit a backspace it out. Could be. I've had that happen before. This was the link I just found that that had the good example in it. So simple PAP and Chap. Obviously, I just got burned on it just now. So I don't think it's that bad. I just need a refresher. That's all. So I reached my objectives here, which was being able to complete last week's lab, the section that I got burned on, which was the PPPoE section, along with the Chap configuration. So I did that. I was trying to do a little extra by incorporating PAP into it, which not like it should be easier. I think it's the same number of commands, but I should have been able to do it no trouble. Man, if I could just only imagine if I was sitting from the CCIE lab right now and they asked me to configure PAP and how I got that wrong. Oh, I'd be hanging my head low. If I scroll back in Wireshark, I'll see a blank space after the password. Let's see if I can do PPP PAP. Let's see if I can do PPP. What did they call that here? I see here. Right there where there was an extra space after password. Good catch. Oh my God. This goes in the idiot bucket. I'm going to put this in the day 15 folder. And I'm calling it PAP Idiot. Because there's been many times in my life where I've added an extra space after a password. Had to go back and chase it down. So thanks for pointing that out, because the embarrassment and the humility I feel just now will make me not want to make that mistake again. So I'll definitely be on the lookout for the trailing spaces after those passwords. Okay. So with that said, my objectives are complete for this topology. I want to clear the routers, do a quick DMVPN, because it's been probably a week since I've done it. So I'm going to do the DMVPN, OSPF, and then if I have time, it's pretty late. It's pretty late here on the East Coast. It's almost midnight. So maybe I'll just do DMVPN and then hit the SAC. But this has been a pretty good review. All right, those routers will take a minute. Yeah, sure. Top Hat 802 Top Hat over in the chat was asking while we're waiting for these to reboot if I could go over what I'm using here. I guess as a platform and a topology. So this is EVE-NG Community Edition, and I've had it for about 6 months, more than 6 months, probably more than 6 months. I remember when it was just sort of being released and just started as new, and I didn't really use it a lot in the beginning. I really leaned on GNS3 for these sort of small topologies, and but lately I wanted to get away from GNS3 completely and completely lean on INE, EVE-NG. And that's because I wanted to be able to build bigger topologies. So I have this hosted on a VM on a server, which is really just an extra computer in the basement that has a little more juice than what I'm working on now. And so it has a little bit more resources I can play with, and I can leave stuff running all day long while I'm at work and come back and pick up labs right where I left off. So I run everything on the VM, and this is EVE-NG. This is just a topology that I built. I do share out the topologies that I build. There is a public Dropbox link that I will share. And I'll put it in the chat and in the links on the video description. So this will be, I think, posted under my day 15 folder. And this is just EVE-NG. I'm running VIOS, the VIOS images, and they work pretty well. They're pretty stable. For a long time, I had trouble with EVE-NG getting the PCAPs to work, and it was really just an issue on my end. It was not EVE-NG issue, but it was something that required some deep troubleshooting. And if you go back and watch my previous stream videos, you'll find out what we did to get that working. Other people had Wireshark working no problem. It was just a problem with my setup. But I did build out the INE topology in here. I do have the INE workbook, so I do the INE labs through here. I'll be streaming the INE CCIE Foundation Lab 2 this upcoming Saturday. However, I don't share out those topologies, and I don't show the workbook on screen for copyright privileges or copyright purposes. By all means, go over to INE.com, buy the workbook. It's $2.99. It is a great value. Build the labs yourself, and there's a lot to learn. I've been through more than half of the workbook. I really enjoyed it, but I'm jumping down to the foundation labs at the bottom, which are the large-scale labs, just to be able to gauge my readiness. Last week, I did a long live lab stream. It was 7.5 hours long. And I'm looking to do probably a 6-hour stream this upcoming Saturday where I go over a CCIE Foundation lab. I did pretty well on the last one. We'll see what materials in the upcoming one. I don't look at it ahead of time. I don't do anything. I just build the lab, make sure that it's running, and I jump right in Saturday morning. So if you want to come on and lab with me, come on and lab with me. I'll be live streaming, and it's a great way to collaborate. All right, while these routers are up, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick DMVPN. And probably hit the sack. So all the routers, gigabit interfaces, I'm putting in a common subnet since they're all connected to the same multi-access segment, which is no problem. Actually, I see I'm veering from my own rules. I told myself I was only going to be typing configs in Notepad and pasting them in, and here I am working in the console way too much, wasting my time. And just to practice, oh man, oh bummer, 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 bummer. See if I can grab that. Screwed myself up. I did a parenthesis instead of curly braces. Cool. Okay, so let me create the config for the hub. I'm going to use a different IP space. This is going to be oh, I love it when you can paste it all in at once. Oh, sweet. Okay, now we need a routing protocol. And also we got to set our network type, which I did not do. IP, OSPF, network, type, point to multipoint. That's just what I'm using this time. There we go. And then on this one, we want to do IP NHRP redirect. And on here, we want to do IP NHRP shortcut. Okay. Interface loopback0 IP OSPF. Uh-oh. This is kind of a trash way to do this, right? Causing all this reconvergence in the network. All right, neighbors, show IP route OSPF. Cool, I see those. Let's see from the spokes point of view. Only one neighbor. And all my routes. Can I ping another spoke? Excellent. And if I try to do a trace to another spoke, which is 3, it goes to the hub on the first go around, and it skips it on the second go around. Cool, perfect. Okay, I guess the last thing to do is go ahead and put some authentication on the tunnel, on the protocol. So let's do that. Interface tunnel 0 IP NHRP authentication, and call this password. And let's do IP OSPF IP OSPF authentication MD5. No. Message digest. IP OSPF message digest key. 1, 2, 3, 4. MD5 password. What is the maximum value for the key ID? 255. Okay, let's do 1, 2, 3. If you do it fast enough, the tunnels won't even bounce. Let's see what happens. think we're good. That should have bounced by now. It's been 40 seconds, I believe. Everything's still full. Do I have reachability still? Let's come from router 2. Excellent. Everything looks good. Awesome. Do a couple of verifications. Cool. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to shut it down. This brings me to a close. I'm going to wrap this up. It's just after midnight. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Day 15 of my 100 days of labbing journey. Obviously, I need to brush up on some Chap and PAP, just to be sure I know that inside and out. I think I'm competent enough in PPPoE that if I see some simple requirements in the test, I should be able to succeed. If anyone has some good resources for PPPoE, please send them my way. I definitely want to take a look at them because the stuff in the official cert guide is pretty thin. A couple of pages, about 4 pages worth, is not enough. Okay, so thank you all. I'll see you all tomorrow. And don't forget, we're going to do a live lab on Saturday. We're going to be doing the INE workbook foundation, the INE CCAE Advanced Technologies workbook, the Foundation Lab 2. I won't be streaming the topology or the workbook materials, but you'll get to see my console screens and you'll get to hear my chat and banter. And if anyone wants to lab along with me, awesome. This will be great. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.